In today's video, we'll be creating an Alex Hormozi style thumbnail. Now you may have seen this thumbnail style before. It's quite popular and it's used a lot by business content creators. You could call this a presentation style thumbnail, in which case you're going to have a flip chart, you're going to have some text, and the intention is that with the text that you add in, it lures your audience into clicking on the video. I'll be teaching you guys some cool tips like adjusting perspective, and I'll also be going over how you can create that blurred pixelated effect that you see in this thumbnail. So without wasting any more of your time, let's get straight into the video. Let's start off by creating a new file, 1920 by 1080, keep all the other options the same and click create. Okay guys, so starting off with the background, I've just created a new layer here and I've just simply double clicked and clicked on gradient overlay to add the blue colors on this canvas. And I'll provide you with the hex codes for these shades of blue. And guys, make sure to copy all the settings you see on screen if you're following along with this tutorial. So once you've done that, now it's time to add in our overlays. So what I have right here is a grid texture which I found on FreePic, and I'll link this in the description down below. Simply just bring it into your canvas like so and just place it nicely on screen. Once you're happy with the positioning, we can simply change the blending mode to screen. And then again, just adjust until you are happy with the positioning. This looks pretty good to me. And as you can see guys, we're getting a very nice textured blueprint style background. Okay, and now it's time to add in the flip chart. So what I have right here is an image of a flip chart, and I'll provide the link to this image in the description down below if you want to follow along or just simply use it in your practice projects. So here's how it's going to work guys. We're going to first of all start off by adding in our text, and then we will adjust the perspective of everything afterwards. So let's just focus on adding in our text. So let's press T for the type tool, and the font we are using today is Morning Bright Regular. Now the reason for using this text is because we want to give off the handwritten vibe. We want it to look like we've actually written this on the flip chart. So I'm using a handwritten style font for this thumbnail. Let's click within our flip chart and I'm going to type in 10K per month, and I'll also add a colon. Now again, the reason for adding this specific text is because I know it's something that's interesting to a lot of people, so that's going to help in getting people to click. Okay, so let's just escape. Let's go ahead and resize our text, press Command or Control T, and let's just increase the size of this text to something like this. This will do for now. Let's go ahead and also add a yellow highlight to this. So what I'll do is I'll create a new layer and I'll place it below the 10K per month, and I'll just rename this to highlight just to keep organized guys. Let's then go ahead and press M for the marquee tool, and then go ahead and make a selection, a rectangular box which surrounds the text. Something like this should be fine. Once you've done that, let's now go to adjustment layers and click on solid color, and then just simply pick a shade of yellow. Yep, we want this to be quite bright to just sort of give off the highlights vibe. Something like this looks perfect. And I'll provide you with the hex code for this color and click OK. So let's go ahead and add in the remaining text. So what I'm going to do is just duplicate this layer, press Command or Control J to duplicate, then press Command or Control T, and then let's just drag this below like so. Let's now press T for the type tool once again. Let's select our text and just alter our text. So what I'm going to write out is 3 different steps. We'll start off with the first step, which is pick a niche. So let me just type that out, perfect. And then we can just press Command or Control J once again, drag it down and go ahead and write the second step out, which is to be the best. And then let's just repeat this step one more time. Let's go ahead and duplicate this layer, press Command or Control J, and just drag down the new text layer below like so. And let's type in the final step, which is to charge high prices. Okay guys, from this step, let's now just go ahead and select our 3 text layers, so the 3 text layers besides the title, and let's just drag them more to the right. Perfect, just like so. That way we have some space for the numbers, and I'm just going to simply click on the canvas and let's just type in the number 1 like so. Go ahead and press escape, and then we can just go ahead and press Command or Control T and just resize this to something similar to the text we have right beside it. Let's then go ahead and change the color to a red color, something like this will do, and then we can just duplicate this text layer by pressing Alt or Option and dragging down whilst holding Shift to keep it in the same line, and then we can do the same thing once more. Just hold down Alt or Option, add Shift and drag this down like so. Okay, and now we can just adjust these numbers. So I'm just going to type in 2 and 3 for this text right here. Pretty simple, guys. And now we just need to align things and make things look neat. Make sure that everything is in alignment. Perfect. And I think at this stage I also want to just decrease the spacing between each letter for all the text we have right here. So let's go ahead and just highlight all of our text layers like so, and I want to now just go ahead and alter the kerning and adjust this to -30. And as you can see, everything now becomes more compact. It just makes the text look more neat. Again, we're not trying to make things look messy here, guys. The intention here is just to make it look like we've used a pen and we've written on this flip chart, but we don't want things to look messy. Okay guys, everything's looking really good. Now the next step will be to blur out this text at the bottom which says charge high prices. Now the reason we're going to blur this out is because we want to generate intrigue and interest. Of course, if we can't actually see what the final step is, we're more inclined to want to click on the video to find out what that last step is. So by implementing this technique, which I'm about to show you right now, you can really increase the CTR of your thumbnails. So pay attention and make sure to implement this into your own thumbnail designs. Now this technique is fairly simple, nothing complex at all. So all we need to do, guys, is simply click on our text right here, so charge high prices. Let's then go ahead and right click on our text layer and convert this into a smart object. Okay, so once that's done, let's now go ahead and click on filter and click on pixelate and click on mosaic. And as you can see, guys, it now adds this blurred effect but in a pixelated form, which of course you can use a Gaussian blur if you just like to blur this out in a very normal manner. And as you can see, guys, you can adjust the slider to pixelate it even further, and you can even drag it back like so just to decrease the pixelated effect. And the more you go to the left, as you can see, the more of the text you're actually going to see. So if we take this all the way down to something like 5, you can pretty much see what the text is, and of course we don't want that to be the case. So I'm going to keep this to something like, let's see here, guys, something 39 will do the trick. Let's now click OK, and I just want to decrease the opacity of this effect just to make it a little more grey as opposed to a very black color which you have right now. So let's just take the opacity down to something like 80%. Of course you can see that just lightens the effect ever so slightly. Yeah, perfect. Moving on, it's now time to add in our subject. So what I have right here is an image of myself, which I took, and I just simply pointed towards what we now have right here, which is our flip chart. Of course, when I took the image, I didn't actually have a flip chart next to me, so I simply had to point and get the pose as accurate as I could. So at this stage, I would recommend that everyone following along with this tutorial, go ahead and just take 5 to 10 minutes and try and take an image of yourself doing the exact same pose that I'm doing right here. This is the best way for you guys to learn, but alternatively, if you don't want to take an image of yourself, just find an image of a person pointing just like the pose you see on screen. Now it may be hard to find this exact pose, which is why I'm encouraging you guys to take a picture of yourself. You're going to learn a lot more doing it that way. Now for this image we have right here, I've already gone ahead and done my dodging and burning, and I've also gone ahead and used camera raw filter just to enhance this subject. Now if you don't know how to dodge and burn, I have a video dedicated to the dodge and burn effect. I'll make sure to link that in the description down below, and I'll make sure to have that pop up right now in the top right corner of your screen. Okay, and now at this stage it's time to adjust the perspective. Now this is where I find a lot of designers going wrong when they're trying to adjust perspective. What they will do is maybe they'll just take this flip chart right here, they'll go ahead and press Command or Control T, and they'll try and just adjust the perspective by holding down Command or Control and just adjusting the perspective manually like so, and then they will just simply go ahead and take their text and try and match the angle of their newfound perspective of the flip chart. So they're just going to try and rotate it and try and match it with the chart until they just seem to find something which looks semi-realistic. That's the completely wrong way to do it, and I'm going to just undo all of this right now and show you how to adjust the perspective of everything in the correct way. So what we need to do first of all, before we do anything else, is we need to combine all of these layers together. So all the text on this flip chart, including the flip chart itself, we need to merge all of those layers together, and then we need to adjust the perspective all at once, and that way way all the elements will be at the same perspective, which is what we want. So let's go ahead and just select all of our layers. So let me go ahead and find all our layers. So let's start off with the flip chart as the first layer, and then everything else within the flip chart we are going to now select. Let's then go ahead and just press Command or Control J because I want to create a duplicate of everything, and then I just simply want to group that, and this will serve as our backup. So let me just go ahead and just double click and just rename this to backup, and we can just hide this and place this below everything that we've just selected. So yeah, perfect. Go ahead and place this below the flip chart layer. Perfect. So we have a backup if anything goes wrong. Okay, so now let's just select everything once again. Let's now press Command or Control E to merge all those layers together. And what you should now have is just a merged layer of the flip chart as a whole. So everything within the flip chart plus the flip chart itself. Okay, let's just rename this to flip chart. And now we can adjust the perspective at this point. So what I'm going to do first of all is just quickly right click and convert this into a smart object, and then let's just zoom out a slight touch and go ahead and press Command or Control T, and I will just simply right click and click on perspective. And now guys, it's just a matter of just adjusting the perspective like so. So we want this to be at a bit of an angle, not too much of an angle, but at a bit of an angle. Something like this is starting to look pretty good. And so you just need to keep shifting and playing around with the perspective until you get something which looks good to you. There's no specific angle you need to achieve here. So yeah, let's keep adjusting. You can hold down Shift as well to keep it on the same line when you adjust the perspective. Yep, something like this is starting to look pretty good. Maybe we can move this more to the right as well. Maybe we can also go ahead and just press Command or Control T once again and just narrow this in a slight touch like so. Maybe we can even go ahead and increase the size of this as well. So again guys, there's no limits to what you can do here, but just make sure that when you are adjusting the perspective that you follow the steps I mentioned to do it in the right way. Okay, so something like this is starting to look pretty good to me. Okay, so I'm just going to go ahead and adjust this even further, just spend a little bit more time on it, and I'll be right back in just a moment. Okay guys, so I've just gone ahead and adjusted the perspective, and I'm pretty happy with how this looks. Now the next step will be to just add a little touch of realism to this thumbnail. I'm going to add a little drop shadow of my finger actually on the flip chart. Again, just to add a bit of realism. So let's go ahead and double click on my subject. Let's go ahead and click on drop shadow. And now let's just adjust these settings. So what I'm going to do first of all is just increase the opacity to something like 80. Let's go ahead and also now just increase the distance. So let's take this all the way down to something like, let's say 71 will do for now. And let's now go ahead and just decrease the size of this drop shadow. So as you can see, we are now forming this shadow on the flip chart. Then we can just adjust the opacity to our liking to something, let's say to something like 35. Looks pretty realistic in my opinion. Maybe even 33. Yeah, looks really good. And again, just play with the distance until you get something which looks realistic. And then let's click OK. Now I only want the drop shadow to be on the flip chart, just this little bit of the finger. So everything else we need to remove. So how can we do that? Very simple. All we need to do is right click on drop shadow and let's create a layer. So create layer like so. Once you've done that, let's now click OK. And now as you can see, we have the drop shadow on a separate layer itself. What we can do from here is actually add a layer mask, and then it's just a matter of pressing B for the brush tool and having the black color selected, and we can just simply guys paint out the rest of the drop shadow like so. Very, very simple until we are left with only the finger region. From here you can just use the arrow keys as well to go ahead and just move the drop shadow even further down if you need to, like so. I think something like this looks pretty good. Yeah, it looks pretty good to me. And then we can just zoom in even further into the drop shadow to make this look realistic. Of course, we won't have any drop shadow on this blue area, so let's go ahead and remove that. I'm going to make sure to have a hard brush, and then let's just erase this out. As you can see guys, it's fairly simple, just like so. Perfect. So as you can see guys, when we zoom out, just a little bit of drop shadow is added to this flip chart just to add a little bit of realism. Okay, looking really good. What I now want to do is just add a bit of a spotlight behind the subject just to boost the thumbnail's attractiveness. So let's go ahead and do that. So what I'm going to do is create a new layer below the subject layer, like so. Let's just go ahead and press B for the brush tool, and I'm going to source this blue color right here. Simply press Alt or Option and click on your canvas to source the color. Then let's go ahead and just adjust this color maybe to something like this. I'll provide you guys with the hex code, and then let's go ahead and just increase the size of our brush and make sure you have a soft brush when you're doing this step. And then let's just paint in a few dabs of light, like so, and go ahead and change the blending mode to linear dodge add. Okay, perfect. Let's then go ahead and create a new layer. Above that, let's go ahead and just decrease the size of our brush ever so slightly, and let's now select a white color, and let's just paint in a bit more light closer to the subject just to enhance this overall glow effect we have going on. So you can spend as much time as you want on this step. I'm trying to do this pretty quickly for the tutorial. This looks pretty good to me. And now it's time to move on to the final step, which is camera raw filter. So what we will do is go ahead and merge all these layers in this layer section into one layer. So we'll do that by pressing Command, Option, Shift and E. And as you can see now, we have a final copy of all the layers combined into one layer. Let's now go ahead and right click and convert to Smart Object, and then click on Filter and Camera Raw Filter. And now let's just adjust the sliders to enhance this thumbnail. So I'm going to start off in the light section. Let's see what we can do here. Maybe we can increase the exposure to 0.10. Yep. Let's try and increase the contrast as well. Maybe we can take this to +20. Yep, a decent amount of contrast. Let's move into color. So let's go into color and let's try and adjust the vibrance. So maybe we can take this up to +5. Let's adjust the saturation a slight touch as well to maybe +3, and let's move into effects. So what I'm going to do here is just increase the texture ever so slightly to maybe +5, and let's increase the clarity a very slight touch, maybe to +3, and then let's add a vignette to this thumbnail. So what I'm going to do is just add a bit of a vignette, so taking the slider to the left, as you can see, and then we can just adjust the settings of this vignette. So click within this arrow right here, and it now gives you more options, more settings to alter the vignette even further. So what we can do is just adjust the midpoint, as you can see, and if you want to see what you're doing guys, just take the feathering all the way down to 0 for a moment so you can see the harsh line of the vignette. Let's now just adjust this midpoint to something maybe like this. We can have a look at the roundness. Yep, to something like that. Maybe we can just take this back a bit. Yep, to something like this, -57. Yep, so we're just attacking the corners here, and then we can just start to add a gradual feather in, as you can see right now, until it's almost blended in and you don't see that line anymore. Yeah, to something like this. Okay, this is looking pretty good. Let's now go ahead and just close this tab, and let's add some grain into this thumbnail. So let's take this up to +12. That's sort of my magic number for grain. I don't like to overdo it with the grain guys. I think 12 in my personal experience is sort of the sweet spot for grain. So let's keep it at 12. Let's now go into curve, and I want to just adjust the highlights and increase them a little bit more. So what I'll do is just select a point in the middle and just drag it up a slight touch just to attack the highlights. So yeah, something like this does the trick. So that's before and that's after. So just brightening the face a slight touch. Maybe we can bring this down a slight touch. Yep, to something like this guys. Now we will go ahead and go into color mixer, and I want to see if we can adjust the hue of this blue. So what I'll do is just adjust the hue of the blues, and let's see if we can get a better color for the blue. Yep, maybe a more royal blue will work well for this thumbnail. Yep, something like this does the trick. Just +2 is simply all we need to do. And now let's go ahead and click on luminance. Now what luminance is it basically controls the brightness value of the color you're adjusting right now. So if we go ahead and just adjust the blues, that's just controlling how dark that shade of blue actually is. So if we go ahead and just adjust this slider more to the left, as you can see, it starts to darken the blue colors like so. And of course, if you do the opposite, then you're just increasing the brightness value of the blues. And in this case, doesn't look so good. So we're going to undo that. I think we want to take this more to the left, to something like this. Let's also go ahead and click on hue once again. I think we can get a better shade of blue. And so guys, this is a process of trial and error. If I think I can improve something, I'll always go back and refine it even further. And you should do the same, guys. So let's try and get a better shade of blue here. I think this is now starting to look pretty good. So +10 on the blues for the hue. Let's also maybe go into saturation and see if we can adjust the saturation of the blues. Maybe we can take this to +6. Yep, so that's before, that's after. Yep, that's looking really good to me. And now let's go into detail. So click on detail and let's increase the sharpening. I'm going to take this all the way up to +20. Yeah, looking really nice. And then click OK. And so there you have it, a simple presentation thumbnail. Now this thumbnail style is very popular, and if you make thumbnails, you're bound to make this style of thumbnail sometime soon if you haven't yet done so already. Now if you enjoyed this video, guys, make sure to subscribe to my channel because I'll be posting a lot more videos just like this weekly. Thank you very much, guys, for watching this video, and until next time, peace.